Welcome to the People's Forum.
We are demanding recoupment. Recoupment of our birthright with compound interest over the years of oppression and exploitation. We're demanding recoupment of earnings that were never paid. The initial demand of this recoupment is, as a start, $6 billion. $6 billion for the creation of a black urban coalition.
Welcome back, America. That speech is 50 years old, from 1969. That's the great freedom fighter Roy Innis speaking to reparations, the ADOS movement, as far back as 1969. Because he was a strong freedom fighter and a Crucian, I have my fraternity brother and guest right here, Mr. Hakeem Atiba. Pardon me, Atiba. He's going to speak. Welcome to the People's Forum.
Thank you. Like, I think that the bulk of our conversation, or the meat of our conversation, has been around reparations. And as my dear brother, you know, I love you so much. I think that my view on reparations, yes, I do believe that we're owed a tremendous amount, because there's really no way to quantify the value of free labor. And then, so agriculture is the first wealth builder. People grow extra crops, which creates surplus and allows you to invest. Case in point, J.R. Simplot, who started Idaho Potato, is one of the biggest investors in Micron Tech, which is one of the biggest tech companies on the planet. So agriculture is the first wealth builder. So for the first couple of hundred years of America, they had free labor. So that wealth just was exponentially exploded. So when we talk about a wealth gap, it's not a wealth gap, it's like a wealth lap. They're so far ahead of us when it comes to just pure wealth, that for us to attempt to, number one, for us to even think that someone's going to say, okay, we'll give you back. So, I mean, you don't give back money to your cattle. You don't give back money to your horse. You don't give back true money to your labor force. You pay them a minuscule amount of money in business, and the corporation lives on to continue taking 80 to 90% of the profits. So that's how they've dealt with us. I think it's a situation with the animal farm where the animals begin to operate on their own. I believe we need to create a system within the system that kind of like supports and incubates us. I just don't really see us receiving anything of.
And my argument to that is in an analogy. If I'm a parent and I have a child, and I don't bring my child up with any of the basics, food, clothing, shelter, education, spiritual foundation, nurturing, if I don't bring you up with any of those things, and then I turn you loose at 18 and say, oh, you're grown now, hit the ground running, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, what's going to happen to that child?
They're going to go through the trials and tribulations of
an ignorant, unloved, unsupported person. They're going to catch licks. They're going to end up in prison or in the graveyard. We're stuck right now in a real life Monopoly game where everybody else is on this board. Everyone else is on this board. Everybody started at Go. They had a 400-year head start of going around this board, and they've purchased everything. They've purchased all of the cheap properties. They purchased the railroads. They've purchased the electric company. They've purchased everything on this board, all the expensive properties, and they put houses and hotels on this board.
But
So
that board doesn't work. That board doesn't work unless we pay them. And that's the thing.
they've got all the land and all the resources.
But it doesn't matter. It'll be devalued because the mortgages is going to be, so this property that you're buying in Brooklyn's at $2.5 million, taking a $2.5 million mortgage to support it. But if you basically take away the ability for the tenants to actually pay the mortgage, eventually it's going to devalue it. Now, I mean, that's not the best analogy, but
I'm glad you used it because hold on. Because most of white America got their homes New Deal and on. In those homes, they paid in some cases $1,000, in some cases $5,000.
Kwame, I'm not arguing that the game's not rigged.
I just want to.
It's definitely rigged.
I just have to say, and I have to correct myself because I used a baby boomer wealth transition. I used 68 billion. The actual figure is $68 trillion of wealth transfer. You can't overcome that. You can't save that. And you can never work for another man. When you said that we do it with agriculture. When you
Agriculture is the first
land,
wealth builder.
growing crops. But guess what? The first time we got free and the first time we had an attempt to do some farming on our own, they put us into sharecropping. And it wasn't a choice. It was this is what you're going to do. This is what your cut is going to be. And at the end of the season, we're going to tally up. And I'm going to tell you what we made, minus the recoupment, i.e. record industry for all you hip hop fans, the recoupment. And what did they do in the hip hop industry? They broke you. You did 5, 10 albums and you made pennies.
Yeah, and they owned your publishing.
And they owned your publishing. What do you say to that?
Like I said, it just goes back to the overall the overall game plan of America, and I can just say America is this global society versus, and I don't like to just say African American, but melanated people worldwide. Australia, we already know the trials there. New Zealand wiped them out.
Court, I know it doesn't have much teeth. I know the UN doesn't have much teeth, the World Court, but guess what? Sometimes when you drag things out and you embarrass people, I mean, the Emperor Haile Selassie went in front of the League of Nations and he pulled their pants down, he embarrassed them. And he says, stand up. You have an agreement with our country. You have an agreement as we are a member of this League of Nations to help us if attacked. Sometimes you have to embarrass people and you have to bring them out.
But all right, so our stance is kind of like off. We continue to have this debate with this entity that clearly, since 1492, hasn't been treating melanated people on the planet too well. But we continue to ask for their mercy. When does that become insanity? When do we, as we continue to march and kumbaya and whatever we've been doing? When does that become redundant and non-value added and not effective? The only thing that's ever really truly been effective where the government has screamed uncle and capitulated is Birmingham, Alabama. Why? Because their entire transportation system grinded to a halt. That's the only time. That's the only way to get them to listen.
In Birmingham, we got them to grind to a halt. That movement spread to North Carolina and so on and so forth. And guess what they did? They capitulated. They said, we're going to integrate these bus lines. And they integrated the bus lines. And what did we do as the people that we are? We started to ride those buses and our own bus companies closed down. You have to protect your market. You have to insulate. You have to stay together.
You want to bring? You want to see that same play being played in modern times?
Yes.
Let's take a look at Colin Kaepernick. Nike just quelched that whole movement. I mean, you went back to Facebook and all, social media, and everyone was talking about touchdowns, and as if we weren't, we weren't really dealing with a major egregiance on how they treated Colin Kaepernick and the other gentleman who sat out with him. See, I'm just of a mindset that enough with this discussion. Just leave them. Just like leave them with that.
Turn our backs. Do me a favor in the booth. Could you put on slide number 4? We can't turn our backs on these things because this is what
I
this
don't
is
think
where
it's
it
a turn your
started.
back. I don't think it's a turn our back. I think we almost need to turn our back on them and just focus on us. Don't even have this conversation. Don't even speak to them anymore. Don't even discuss it. We have all of the necessary abilities to rebuild the nation. We're just not doing it. That's my belief.
Right now, we have no hospitals.
We can have a
We
hospital.
have
We can have a hospital.
very few schools. We have zero manufacturing to speak of.
But we can do it.
We have 3 of our own banks, One United Bank being one of them. We don't have any of these industries. We don't have, and above all, we don't have the land to make these things happen without pushing this through. But remember, we're Americans. At the end of the day, we're dealing with what's happening in America. We're Americans, and according to our own creed, our own constitution, we should be protected. The Equal Protection 14th Amendment says that we have to be protected. Our government has a responsibility. And as Americans that have fought in every single war conflict that this country has been in loyally, we have to hold their feet to the fire.
But every people that have enforced this protection, i.e., other groups, they fought for it, and they fought for it in a diligent and in a cohesive and a planned manner. Now, whether we're able to, like I said, we have different tribes here on this continent, so we never come to one accord. For some reason,
We don't
they're
have
able to. And like I said, I think that the one accord is, we recognize that we've been egreged. We recognize that we are due a reparation. And with that alone, we need to just operate within that mode. I think that we really need to just do our own.
If
Our
we take
problem,
other
once again,
communities-
we said, what
Go
were we
ahead.
talking about? We said integration and segregation.
Yes.
I believe that integration is I think we need, and when I say segregate, I don't mean in a negative fashion. I mean segregate meaning do for self. Like, I believe that white America should be clapping if we begin to establish our own bank and we all moved our money into that bank. They should be applauding us. So what? We're leaving Chase or Bank of America. So what? Applaud that. We should, if we, just like, what's the insurance company in North Carolina? Every time I drive into North Carolina and I see that building, I'm just so proud of it. It's like North Carolina Mutual. But it was, and every single melanated individual uses that insurance company. We all have gone to A&P and ShopRite and Key Foods. Well, you know what? We need a Black Mart, where all of us basically go to. And if we were able to create that, we wouldn't be asking about reparations because we're such a powerful base that we really truly do not need them. We just come from a history of interdependence due to this system that they dropped on us, which I personally think is like a spell. But we truly do not need them. We do not need them. Between the 50 million of us in America, the Caribbean, South America, Africa, Indus Kush, because as we talk about India, there are people that are darker than you and I
Exactly.
there. So we truly don't need them. It's almost like that, when you're when you're in like an abusive situation, but you almost depended on your abuser. I mean, we have like a 400-year situation happening.
Let me quote from the great playwright August Wilson. They don't pay you because they like you. They pay you because they owe you.
Or need you.
Or need you, but more emphatically because they owe you. We built this nation, this world economy is built on melanated resources, melanated labor. Okay, we got 1 minute. I want you to take us in the commercial. We got a minute. Last statement, please.
I believe that we have the ability, and just the 50 million of us here, and I just threw that number arbitrarily. I haven't counted. To create
Roughly 44 million.
a centrifugal motion, a movement that the planet has never really seen, and I don't think is difficult. I think that we've come from a very difficult space, probably some of the most difficult space on the planet. In history. But look where we're at. Look where we've come from with little resources. I think that we're just on the verge of our greatness.
All right, got to go to commercial. Thank you very much. We'll be right back with the second half of this argument.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Hang with a gypsy. Hang with a gypsy. Hang with a gypsy girl. Hang with a gypsy. Hang with a gypsy. Hang with a gypsy girl.
Welcome back. Welcome back. When we left, we were speaking about building industries. I'd be remiss if I did not point out that here in New York City specifically, we have a group of businessmen hailing originally from the Dominican Republic that have done a phenomenal thing. They have cornered the market in small to medium-sized supermarkets. They've cornered the market in terms of the local deli and in the bodega translation. So why can't we use that business model from another group of African peoples from the diaspora? Why can't we use that as a model?
Well, years ago, like when we were in school, they would crack jokes about men who came home from who were incarcerated, and they would crack jokes at the way they ate their food, and the reason being is they would have their plate of food, but they'd cover it and eat it for obvious reasons. You don't want anyone to take your food. I think that African Americans, or melanated Americans, we are, to have money is such a rare thing. You get $10,000, a person will lose their mind. Why? Because we just don't come from those resources. So when we do have money, we're so afraid to lose it that it creates that hovering over the plate inmate type of scenario with their resources. You're afraid to lose it. Aside from your health and your family, your most important resource is your cash, is your money.
Exactly.
And to lose it can really set you back. Trust me, I've lost, set back, take 2 years to regain your resources. I mean, it's tough. So I think the relationship that we have with money is such a new relationship. It's an unfamiliar relationship wherein other groups have been playing with money. They basically invented money.
Well, and remember, and their money circulates in their community, 10, 11, 15, 17 times. I'm not even going to use the word circulate because our money just falls in and dies.
Well, we don't. Once again, if you go into our communities and you just take a look at the commercial properties from one corner to the other as they bookend the street, none of those belong to us, but they're in our community.
Exactly.
So
we have no ownership. We allow people to come into the community, establish a business, extract wealth, and we do the insane thing to patronize the business. They don't have to hire anybody. They don't have to train any young people. They don't have to make any donations. They don't have to do anything. They just open a store, bring their own people in, stand somebody there who looks like you most times to watch you and follow you, and then we have the audacity to put our money on the counter and say thank you.
Time and time again. And it's like I said, it's part of that spell that I think that we're under, almost to the point where even if we do own a black store or a melanated store, we won't patronize them.
But you know what that comes from? That comes from
Crabs in the barrel.
traumatic. Thank you. That comes from traumatic injury. That comes from trauma. That comes from post-traumatic stress disorder. You know,
PTSD.
Dr. Francis Cress Wessling, you know, wrote that up in the ISIS paper, wrote that up beautifully. See, people want to think that all these things can happen to you. You know, if you get an onion on your hand, and you never wash your hand with soap and water, you just take a napkin and wipe over it, wipe over it. You're always going to have that onion. We have that post-traumatic stress on us. It never gets corrected. We're just supposed to pick it up and walk with it and walk through fire and walk into other worlds. How many times have you been in a boardroom and you're the only one?
Often, but it really doesn't matter because I feel like I'm such a concentrated, well, not me in particular, but I just have a belief that there is no such thing as better or superior. And you recognize that the minute you come into contact, like that is a fallacy beyond, oh my goodness, it's like the biggest fallacy ever.
There's people who have resources and people without resources. And people who have resources like to act as if it's some act of God that made them, you know, rich or made them successful or made them, well, this opportunity.
And not just opportunity, chicanery.
Without a doubt.
I mean, look at the case what we have with Felicity Hoffman and the other young lady, I forgot her name, where they, you know, paid bribes and all sorts of under the table payments to get their kids into school. And then there was an insane argument that the reason why they are forced to do that is due to, you know, HBCUs and a lot of the gifts, quote unquote, gifts that Africans Americans are getting.
That don't make any sense. Put up slide number 1 for me. I want you to look at these I want the audience to look at these black codes and realize that at the same time America was attempting to build this country east going west, stealing from Mexico. At the same time they were doing that, they put things in place systematically to stop the maturation or the growth of this labor force that they wanted to keep in place. You know, so if you don't have anything to stand up on, you can't tell me, well, just do it, just make it happen, because nobody else has done that. We are remarkable people, as you said. What the 4 million people have been able to do, going over 10 times now, 44 million people, and the industries that we're able to pop up in, and the things that we're still having the first PhD in electrical engineering or aerospace engineering and all these things. We're still having first in 2019. Because we're just so far behind. There's so many systematic things in place without recognizing them and knowing that they're there and then tearing at them.
A lot of times it's really even knowing that the subject exists. Listen, as far as excellence with melanated people on the planet, par excellent. We don't even see. That's the problem. When we give these arguments oxygen by talking about them, we're giving them credibility. Like this concept that we are, like, every time I turn around, I'm seeing some melanated kid receiving scholarships from every single Ivy League school. It's like, it's happening so much. Excellence, we are excellence. So I won't accept that.
No, but I love when that kid does that. But when that kid
does, a whole bunch.
If we got, let's say we got 10,000 of them throughout the country who got accepted to all these Ivy League schools, there's still another 10 million of them that were abused in the New York City the public school system around the country.
Around the country, yeah.
And the housing and all of the other things that don't allow them to get there. So when we get the one lottery winner, we put the lottery winner on a pedestal.
I think we have more. See, but he's the one lottery winner because we're trying to run them through their funnel. And they're coming out of their system and they're looking to be recruited by their companies. We have the resources to do that. We're missing
1.5 million companies with staff. We don't really have it. One day last week, I drove from one end of Nassau County to the next. And in my mind, you know, I've been aware and I'm trying to spend my money within my community. And I can't tell you how difficult it is to just stop at a place to get something to eat, to go to a 99-cent store to buy a card for your mother. You don't have the businesses in your communities. You have to go outside because we live in these, I call them menageries, where we think we have a community because we pay rent. You know,
I think that our resurgence is not going to happen brick and mortar. I think that's an old business plan. I think that we have an opportunity as technology is advancing where we could begin to once again funnel and channel our money to overcome those things. I 100%, 1000% recognize and believe that we have the talent and the resources, because our resources, it's supposed to be nothing, because that's our magic. We make something from nothing. I just think that our mindset altogether has to be like, you know what? Forget you. And once we take that energy and we go, forget you, and then we go and we start playing with the dirt and bringing magic from it, that's when we as a people is probably going to get that consolidation and come together. I think we just need to just be like, you know what? We've been talking to you for 600 years now. We're done talking to you. Bam. Because we already, the whatever amount of money that's owed to us as far as reparations, it's owed, and the interest is going to continue to multiply. But we have some more important things to do, and we don't have time to even discuss this with you, because bottom line is see, when you constantly argue and debate truth, it sends you crazy. Right now, we're in a state where we're losing our sense of reality because we're seeing these crimes every day.
You know why we're supposed to be crazy? As James Baldwin says, to be black and conscious in America is to be constantly enraged. If you're conscious about what's happening and you're not mad, then either you are capitulating, or you're part of the problem,
or you just gone numb.
Or you're just numb.
Yeah.
You're
See,
numb.
but that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to create a situation where we're numb. Like right now, that's why people don't go vote. Being not voting is a sign of us going numb. Like, you know what, this thing doesn't
I'm
work.
glad you mentioned voting. I want to go to image number 3, image number 5, and image number 6 in our last 30 seconds, because we're going to go to commercial. And I just want to have a moment of silence, because this is what was happening to us when we were attempting to vote.
Chain gang.
This is
And
what's
the thing about it
happening.
is, you know,
if we go to image number 7, this is what was happening to us. You know, and lastly,
It's
I'm
still
going
happening
to
now.
close and go to image number 5.
It's still happening now. They're lynching and stealing organs as we speak.
Exactly.
But the reason why they're able to do that is
That's a reality.
Yeah.
That's the trauma. We'll be right back, America. We're going to pay this bill. We're going to pay this bill. Oh, pardon me, the show is over. Talk to you next time.